There is a specific, dead silence that fills a room when a financial engine completely locks up. You are looking at a screen, staring at an unyielding, frozen balance sheet, or reviewing a sequence of catastrophic losses that you did not see coming. The phone has stopped ringing. The incoming cash flow has withered to an absolute halt. The grand, ambitious structures you spent years erecting have suddenly collapsed down into a pile of dry, heavy debris, leaving you stranded in an empty, cold space. In that precise moment, a physical, visceral wave of panic hits your biology. Your chest tightens, your heart rate spikes, and an intense chemical taste of absolute defeat fills your mouth. You look around and feel a profound sense of isolation and failure. The spiritual folklore whispers that you have been abandoned. It tells you that your energy is fundamentally broken, that you are under an insurmountable curse, or that you have failed a crucial test of alignment. You feel the heavy, dark gravity of absolute despair, the terrifying sensation that this temporary crater is your permanent grave. I am here as your mentor to look you dead in the eye and deliver a ruthless, uncompromising correction to that narrative. What you are experiencing right now is not a punishment, it is not a cosmic eviction notice, and it is not the end of your story. In the real, uncompromised architecture of reality management, you have arrived at the 0 point. You have entered the mandatory, counterintuitive phase of extreme systemic compression. The matrix is not crushing you, it is drawing back the bowstring. Today, we are going to execute a cold, clinical deconstruction of the financial collapse. We will expose why the absolute bottom is actually a highly charged, high-voltage tactical launching pad, map the structural physics of reality expansion, and deliver the precise mechanical protocol to keep your internal alignment perfectly locked while the system prepares for a monumental, vertical release of material wealth. If you are currently sitting in the wreckage, if you are exhausted from fighting an invisible economic war, or if you are ready to stop bleeding energy and start weaponizing your crisis, lock your attention into this frequency immediately. Subscribe to @esoteric.architect to anchor your position in our sovereign reality grid. Leave an energetic like on this broadcast to signal your return to active command, and let us begin the extraction sequence. To ground this concept in raw, undeniable human tragedy, let us dissect the case study of Mark. 18 months ago, Mark was the managing partner of a rapidly expanding logistics enterprise. He was running a high-velocity machine, generating 8 figures in annual revenue, and preparing to scale into international markets. He felt invincible, operating under the assumption that his growth trajectory was a permanent, immutable law. Then, within a single 30-day window, a sequence of black swan events completely dismantled his perimeter. A sudden shift in maritime regulatory compliance permanently froze 40% of his active cargo. Simultaneously, his primary financial institution implemented an unprovoked security audit, locking his operational lines of credit. Mark went from commanding a dominant corporate empire to facing a daily operational burn rate of $14,000 with zero liquid inflows. I remember the exact night Mark contacted me. He was sitting in a dark office, sweating through his custom suit, staring at 3 separate formal default notices on his desk. His phone was vibrating every 11 minutes with incoming calls from aggressive corporate creditors and terrified internal shareholders. His biology was completely hijacked by horror. He looked at me and said, "Alex, I am completely finished. I have built a house of cards. The wind has changed, and my entire life is being systematically erased." He wasn't just facing financial difficulty, he was experiencing a total, agonizing disintegration of his personal identity. He had fallen straight into the dark void of the absolute 0 point. What Mark could not see through the thick fog of his immediate panic was the geometry of the slingshot. The civilian mind believes that progress is a smooth, continuous, uninterrupted upward slope. They think that a successful life means every month must be larger than the last, in a perfect, predictable progression. That is not how the material universe operates. The geometry of true, massive wealth creation is entirely cyclical, modeled after the fundamental laws of tension and release. Think of a massive industrial slingshot. If you want to propel a heavy projectile across a vast horizon with devastating velocity, you cannot simply push it forward from its resting position. That produces zero momentum. Instead, you must grab the projectile, apply immense physical force, and violently drag it backward, deep into the zone of maximum tension. When you are dragged backward into a financial crisis, when your resources are restricted, your leverage is stripped away, and your operational space shrinks to an absolute minimum, you are not losing ground. You are being loaded into the cradle of the slingshot. The environmental pressure you feel against your perimeter is the literal accumulation of kinetic potential. The deeper the regression, the more violent and expansive the ultimate forward launch will be. The crisis is not a sign of structural failure. It is the physical proof that your system is gathering the raw energy required to shatter your previous historical ceiling. When a corporate structure collapses or a primary revenue stream evaporates, the immediate panic stems from the belief that your power has vanished. You look at your empty accounts and think, I am weak. I have lost my capacity to command reality. This is a profound cognitive error. Power in the material plane is never truly destroyed. It merely changes its state of aggregation. It transitions from an active, kinetic expression to a dense potential state known as systemic archivation. Let us look at another case study to illustrate this law, the story of Elena. Elena built a highly successful boutique executive placement firm. For 7 years, her business model relied entirely on high-end corporate networking and face-to-face masterminds. When a sudden, systemic market shift forced the entire executive recruiting sector online, her business model became instantly obsolete within 6 months. Her client retention dropped to zero, her revenue completely flatlined, and she was forced to lay off her entire 9-person staff. Elena fell into a state of profound clinical mourning. She felt that her 7 years of hard labor had been completely stolen from her by an uncaring market, but she was looking at the wrong data. Her old business model was dead, yes, but her execution intelligence, her deep understanding of corporate psychology, and her refined strategic acumen were completely intact. Her power had simply shifted into an archived state. The environment was violently stripping away the inefficient analog machinery of her old firm so that her core talent could be packed into a modern, unguided digital engine that could scale 10 times faster. The shell had to break to release the real asset hidden within. The true danger of a financial crisis does not live in the lack of capital. The true danger lives in your internal reaction to the pressure while you occupy the compression zone. Most operators, when slammed into the 0 point, commit the fatal error of systemic flinching. Let's look back at Mark to see exactly what this hazard looks like in the field. When the regulatory freeze hit his cargo, Mark didn't stand still, he panicked. In a desperate attempt to maintain the illusion of stability, he took out 3 short-term, predatory merchant cash advances at astronomical interest rates to pay his staff's payroll for a single month. He began cold calling low-tier, toxic clients, offering his premium logistics services at a 70% discount just to get any cash into the system. By flinching, Mark almost destroyed his entire enterprise. The predatory loans added an unmanageable layer of debt to his already bleeding balance sheet. The low-tier clients consumed his team's remaining operational time while generating zero real profit margins. He had released the tension of the slingshot prematurely, causing the entire projectile to drop harmlessly at his feet. When the system tightens, you must enter a state of complete, unyielding stillness. You do not run. You do not compromise your core professional value. You do not make desperate, panic-driven movements. You plant your feet into the earth, absorb the weight of the restriction, and maintain your structural alignment perfectly intact while the pressure reaches its absolute peak. You must allow the compression to finish its work without disrupting the trajectory. If you are ready to weaponize your financial crisis and prepare for the vertical rebound, we must immediately initiate Phase 1 of the Slingshot Protocol, biological stabilization. When your financial infrastructure is compromised, your brain floods your nervous system with cortisol and adrenaline. locking you into a primitive animal survival loop. In this state, your higher cognitive functions, your strategic vision, your risk assessment, and your capacity to detect market anomalies are completely offline. You cannot build a multi-million-dollar empire using the panicked brain of a cornered animal. This is exactly what I forced Mark to do during our midnight intervention. I told him, stop calling lenders, stop looking at your email, close the computer. I forced him to step away from his desk and implement an immediate, non-negotiable physical stabilization sequence. For the next 30 days, you must treat your physical body as the primary fortress of your sovereign reality. You will wake up at a non-negotiable early hour, walk straight out of your front door, and force your feet to march 10,000 paces across the raw geography of your city. You will lift heavy weights until your muscles scream from physical resistance, forcing your endocrine system to flush out the stagnant cortisol of financial dread. You will aggressively purge your diet of chemical stimulants and inflammatory inputs, bringing your blood chemistry down to a pristine, stable baseline. By stabilizing your biology, you decouple your internal state from your external bank account. You declare to your subconscious mind that your survival is completely guaranteed. When your nervous system settles into a state of calm, cold, predatory focus, the financial panic loses its power over your intellect. You stop reacting to the crisis, and you start analyzing it like a chess master looking at a jammed board. With your nervous system anchored, you immediately transition into phase 2, the metric cleanse. A financial crisis is often surrounded by a dense, suffocating cloud of vague, ungrounded fears. You feel like you owe an infinite amount of money to an infinite number of people, and that the disaster is completely unmanageable. We break that spell through the raw, unyielding force of cold arithmetic. This is the exact medicine we administered to Elena when her agency flatlined. She was paralyzed by the abstract fear of complete bankruptcy. We sat down and forced her to open a clean, stark document at 9 o'clock morning after morning to execute a merciless audit of her absolute baseline numbers. You will list every single outstanding debt down to the exact penny. You will document your exact monthly survival burn rate. You will list every single active lead, every asset you can instantly liquidate, and every operational contact in your network who owes you a professional favor or a strategic connection. When Elena saw her crisis through the lens of pure numbers, the spell broke. Her terrifying monster of ruin was reduced to a finite, manageable mathematical problem. She needed exactly $42,000 to clear her legacy liabilities and fund her new digital infrastructure for 90 days. The vague, paralyzing fog vanished, replaced by an actionable, tactical objective. She shifted her posture from a victim hiding from her mailbox to a cold, clinical restructuring officer who is preparing to rebuild the corporate engine. Now that your physical infrastructure is organized and your metrics are mapped, we introduce the subtle, high-frequency hardware designed to stimulate the turnaround. We are going to activate the piezo-crystalline impulse. During a phase of extreme financial compression, your workspace must not reflect the poverty of your current bank statement. It must radiate the cold, dense, high-velocity frequency of incoming crystallization. To achieve this, you introduce large, natural specimens of pyrite and unheated, pale natural citrine into the center of your strategic operations. You place a heavy cubic cluster of natural pyrite directly on top of your metric spreadsheet or your primary financial journals. Pyrite is an iron disulfide mineral with a rigid cubic crystal system. Its geometric architecture is built entirely on the principle of dense, unyielding structure and perfect order. It acts as an energetic shield against the frequency of decay. When you look at your numbers under the influence of the pyrite grid, your mind refuses to accept deficiency. It forces your intellect to seek out structural flaws, optimize your cash flow, and demand absolute order from your enterprise. Next to your communications terminal, you position a raw point of pale natural citrine. Do not use the dark, burnt orange heat-treated amethyst common in civilian shops. That is a dead, phantom stone. You need the pale, greenish-yellow clarity of the genuine solar engine. Citrine operates on the frequency of radiant expansion and high-velocity circulation. While the pyrite anchors your structure and prevents further decay, the natural citrine acts as a high-frequency accelerator, stimulating your cognitive radar so you can spot hidden financial anomalies, micro-inefficiencies in the market, and unexpected revenue pockets that your competitors are completely blind to. It turns your workspace into an active attraction grid. With your hardware deployed and your mind stabilized, you enter Phase 3, the law of outbound force. The single biggest mistake people make at the bottom of a crisis is becoming completely passive. They sit in their dark rooms, performing endless manifestation rituals, waiting for a magical phone call or a sudden stroke of luck to pull them out of the mud. That passivity is a death sentence. The slingshot only fires if you release the tension with absolute explosive intent. You do not wait for the market to discover you. You assault the market with the raw force of your professional execution. Elena executed this phase with iron discipline. Once her new digital consulting offer was mapped, she stopped mourning her old agency. She established a non-negotiable daily metric of 50 direct, hyper-personalized outbound outreaches to Tier 1 corporate targets every single afternoon. She made presentations, she reached out to legacy contacts, and she pushed her value proposition into the market with absolute mechanical velocity. She executed these actions without any emotional attachment to the immediate outcome. She didn't care that the first 80 outreaches resulted in dead silence or flat rejections. She was not looking for validation. She was pumping a stalled engine to clear the airlocks. She was generating massive industrial friction against the material matrix. And as the physical laws of reality dictate, when you slam that amount of raw velocity against a focused target from a state of total internal grounding, the marketplace inevitably yields. As your outbound force synchronizes with the accelerating frequencies of your internal grid, the compression phase reaches its natural conclusion. The bottleneck snaps open with immense explosive momentum. The rebound from a properly managed zero point does not manifest as a small incremental return to your old baseline. Because the tension was drawn back so deeply, the release is vertical and completely transformative. Look at what happened to Mark. After holding his position, stabilizing his biology, and systematically restructuring his debts without flinching, his regulatory blockade was lifted as suddenly as it had arrived. But because he had been forced to optimize his operational efficiency during the compression phase, his logistics engine was now twice as profitable. Within 5 months of his lowest point, he closed a strategic merger that tripled his international fleet, converting his temporary crater into a permanent monument of market dominance. Elena's turnaround was equally spectacular. On her 92nd outbound day, a global financial conglomerate responded to her digital offer. They didn't just hire her for a single placement, they retained her new digital consultancy to restructure their entire global talent acquisition system. That single transaction generated a larger net profit margin in 48 hours than her old analog agency had produced in the previous 2 fiscal years combined. You look at your balance sheet, and within 90 days of executing the protocol, you have not only cleared your liabilities, but you have accumulated a massive liquid surplus that permanently elevates you into a completely different tier of financial sovereignty. You look back at the dark winter of your crisis and realize with absolute clarity that it was the greatest architectural gift you ever received. The crater was not a sign of failure, it was the empty space required to receive the sheer volume of your new empire. We have arrived at the ultimate realization of the Slingshot Protocol. The next level of your historical destiny could never have been built on top of your old, fragile, complacent foundation. The matrix had to compress you so it could forge an unbreakable iron alignment within your core machine. The financial winter you are walking through right now is the ultimate validation of your scale. The universe only applies this level of tension to projectiles that are destined to travel across vast historical distances. Clean up the desk, wipe the sweat from your face, look at your debts not as a shameful secret, but as the documented invoice for your upcoming ascension. You have survived the drop. You have diagnosed the mechanics of the compression, and you now hold the exact blueprint to command the vertical rebound. You are stepping out of the panic of the survivor and into the cold, radiant majesty of the sovereign architect. Take a definitive, intentional moment right now to share this extraction blueprint with a powerful, ambitious operator who is currently trapped in the dark isolation of a financial winter and needs this transmission to save their life. Forward this link into your private circles, document your absolute refusal to flinch in the comments below, and ensure your system coordinates are locked tightly into @esoteric.architect. The tension is at its maximum. The release is imminent. Stand completely still, execute the mechanics, and watch how far you fly. Stay sharp. I will see you at the summit of the grid.